Every business has an ambition. PayPal Open is the platform designed to help you grow into yours. With business loans so you can expand and access to hundreds of millions of PayPal customers worldwide. And your customers can pay all the ways they want with PayPal, Venmo, Pay Later, and all major cards, so you can focus on scaling up. When it's time to get growing, there's one platform for all business. PayPal Open. Grow today at paypalopen.com. Loans subject to approval in available locations.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/PODKATZ13. Just go to Indeed.com/PODKATZ13 right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
I thank you very much for listening to That Will Never Work podcast. Now, what if everything you've ever been told about marketing was a little off, or maybe even just flat out wrong? Well, today I have Ethan Decker, who's going to join me, and we're going to bust some of these myths that we might have been listening to all these years, and maybe talk maybe some real strategies. Maybe we'll see. But we want to ultimately talk about how you could build your brand and build trust. We'll talk about it right after this.
Educate, empower, enable, impact. Thank you for tuning in to That Will Never Work, an award-winning podcast where we share inspiring information and personal experiences related to business and the entrepreneurial journey from those who are leaders in their respective field. Now, here's your host, author and business coach, Maurice.
All right, y'all. So we're going to get all the way into this. And if you're ready to hear Ethan's bio and all those type of things, we'll direct you to his website and you can read it on your own. But we're going to get into the nitty gritty, right? So what if the reason your marketing isn't working is it because the advice you might have been following was never built on truth to begin with? So, Ethan, educate us on that. Is our marketing built on the truth?
Maurice, you know what, Maurice? I would say most of what we think about marketing is built on kind of a fantasy, kind of a story. And that story is that you want love, you want passion, you want romance. That's the mythos, the fantasy of most marketing. And I see this from small companies. I work with a lot of startups and I work with nonprofits. I do a lot of pro bono work and help out a lot of nonprofits in my community here in Colorado. And I work with big companies. I've worked with Procter & Gamble, Kellogg, Discovery, Nike, Coors, like big brands. And everywhere I go, it's like, it's the notion that you want to romance and seduce your customer. And then you want to win them over so that they're loyal and they love you and you have brand love. I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't want to cuddle up with my internet provider at night.
Right.
I don't want love letters from my dish soap.
Right.
And yet that's like the dominant belief in marketing, whether you're kind of getting into it and you think, oh, I want people to love my brand. Or you've been into it forever and you hear these things about brand loyalty and brand evangelists and brand fanatics. It's just prevalent. It's just kind of everywhere. It's the foundational belief or mythos around marketing that I've experienced in the past 20, 25 years.
You talk about big brands though. Isn't that what they sell? Love, you being like a big brand being Disney, right? Because again, myth, right? Fantasy. We see it all the time. So how do we overcome that if that's what we've been learning since a kid?
Yeah, I know. I think the reason it happens is because we see those 2 or 3 kids whose eyes bug out when they first see a Disney princess
Right, right.
live, or we hear the kids squeal and exclaim the first time they watch Finding Nemo,
Mm-hmm.
or whatever the case may be. And then we forget that for every one of those kids, there's 99 people who are like, oh yeah, Disney princess, that's all right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they might still buy the stuff, but there's no fanatical passion. It's just that stuff is quiet and the fanatical passion is loud. So we think that that's normal. But really, it's 100 to 1 easily that for every one fanatic about Disney, or another one you hear about, Maurice, you might have heard this, Harley Davidson.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So Harley's one of these things people call them a love brand or a love mark. Instead of a trademark, it's a love mark. It's seeped into the words, and even Harley Davidson doesn't have the fanatical loyalty that Harley Davidson is supposed to have. If you here's the truth. If you look in the garages of people who own motorcycles, most of them own more than one brand.
Yes.
If they own more than one bike. I don't know if you own any motorcycles yourself.
I don't. I have family members that do, but I don't.
Okay. So maybe some of them cousins or brothers or whatnot. Most people, if they own more than one motorcycle, they own more than one brand.
They do. Yes, I agree.
Okay, you can attest to that.
Yep.
And that's true for Harley Davidson too. That if you look in the garage of someone who owns a Harley, it is more likely that they also own a Honda or a Suzuki or a BMW or something.
Mm-hmm.
And it is less likely that they own 2 or 3 or 4 Harleys and they're just loyal and they just love Harley and they're going to live and die Harley, and that's that.
Right.
So it's this funny thing we tell ourselves that we should be expecting that kind of crazy fanatical loyalty. And while that loyalty is good, while that love is good, it ain't where the money's at. Quite simply. Right? Because go back to Disney. For every one little kid that loses their mind over a Disney princess and buys, Disney sheets and princess clothing and princess wallpaper,
right,
you got 100 people who are happy getting a little Disney stuff and they're okay with that, and then who also buy some Marvel stuff and buy some Lego stuff and all that other stuff.
Right.
So like brand friends, if you think about it, instead of brand love, brand romance, brand friendship is really where the money's at.
But sometimes we're taught to say, hey, we're focusing on this space because as you're speaking and thinking about, hey, if I have this brand and this brand, well, I'm buying them for 2 different purposes, right? Because Harley does have one perspective, but there might not be as fast as a Ducati or something like, so people are buying things for different reasons.
Yeah. And that's okay too. Like you can buy a Harley because when you want to just cruise, you want to make a lot of noise and you want to wear all that leather stuff you have in your closet. Like there's a great occasion for that. And then you're right. If you want to like really burn some rubber, you get your Ducati out,
right?
Italian, and you put on your slick outfit,
right?
Like the one that's full of Kevlar, because you're going to be scraping up some pavement. And so different occasions, exactly. We have whether it's clothing like shoes, we got different shoes for different occasions, and we might love that one pair of shoes we got, those Air Force Ones or those Manolo Blahniks or whatever. But it doesn't mean we're going to just buy Manolo Blahnik or we're just going to buy Air Force One. So there's a confusion about this notion of pure love and pure loyalty, and it can really steer you wrong if you believe it too much.
So when I look at my brand, right, and I'm talking about marketing, am I marketing to the masses or am I just paying attention directly to my avatar? Because sometimes we think that our brand should touch everybody, but when it might not reach anybody at all. So what should I do?
Both of those ends of that spectrum are a little dangerous. If you're trying to reach everybody and be everything to everybody, it doesn't work so well, especially when you're a small brand and you got very little money to throw at marketing. Like even Coca-Cola has to choose. who they're going to market to, and they're the most famous brand in the world.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go the opposite way and you just have this really tight avatar, like I talk to, I don't know, let's go back to the Harley example.
Mm-hmm.
I talk to this guy. He's my avatar. His name is Rashad. He has 5 Harleys. He lives and dies the Hog Harley Owners Club group, Harley Owners Group, HOG. Yeah, the Hogs. He always goes to Sturgis, South Dakota, North Dakota, where they got the huge Harley festival every year.
Okay.
He only drinks Bud Light, and then you start over designing who this avatar is, right? He's definitely a Republican. He doesn't eat organic food, and you get further and further down this deep rabbit hole, and you first of all cut out 60% of people who actually buy Harley.
Yeah.
Because you made up this avatar that's just too focused. And then second, just like you're saying, you have forgot that lots of different people buy Harley for an occasion. And that could be one of many occasions that they decide to get on a motorcycle. So you want to find that middle ground where you have a little bit of a definition around who you're going after.
Right.
But I much prefer trying to define my audience by what's the occasion I'm serving, what's the job I'm doing for them, rather than like, are they white or black? Are they male or female? Are they old or young?
So, and I'll ask that question because some, people talk about who are you marketing to, who is that avatar, drill it all the way down so you could be super focused. And as you're stating, we could be missing the mark because, like you said, with a Harley, it might be that, idea, hey, we're going to go to South Dakota, but what about the same group that might go meet up in Texas or, Florida or so? You get what I mean? Like, so again, it's a different mentality, different environment, but it's the same interest. It's the same idea.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, that's why if you do think about the love and that you only want to attract people who are going to love you forever, you're going to miss the 99 out of 100 people who like you. And I think that's where I steer people for marketing that'll be a little more effective is accept and embrace the people that like you and not love you. And realize a lot of your business is going to depend upon people that think you're fine and like you and don't know your brand story and really don't care about your brand story. And you can have a brand story for that one person who really wants to know.
Right.
Like another great example is Starbucks. You can't throw a stick and not hit a Starbucks.
Right. You're right about that.
Well, one of my favorite cartoons was an Onion, the parody newspaper. They're like, Starbucks opens Starbucks inside bathroom of Starbucks.
Wow.
Because they just keep making more Starbucks everywhere, and they're across the street from each other. And I'd say, again, 999 people don't want to know the story of Starbucks and brand essence and like, who is that mermaid thing?
Right.
Is she a princess or I don't know. They just want to get a cup of coffee and they don't want the line to be too long.
Right.
And then maybe 1 or 2 out of 1,000 want to know the brand story. So have it for those people, have it for your staff. But again, you got to kind of get over yourself and let go of this dream that people are going to be fanatical about you and love everything about you and only buy you and not any other coffee or not any other motorcycle.
So I guess what I'm taking from you, Ethan, should I be more worried about dealing with the person's needs and or desires for the moment and not get so caught up in stuff like that? Because if all I want is a cup of coffee, like I said, I might not be worried about whether or not the cup is white and green or, something else.
Yep. Pink and orange. Right? There's a pink and orange coffee brand, right?
No, I don't.
Pink, orange, and white. Pink,
Dunkin' Donuts?
Orange. Boom.
Right.
I mean, talk about knowing very little about the company, right? It's pink and orange, and you can tell it apart from the white and green one.
You can, most definitely.
Yeah, there's a sad part of it where you're like, oh, I guess most people who buy me aren't going to be in love with my brand. And then there's freedom, which is, oh, there are a lot of people out there who like my brand, just want a good cup of coffee. And
Mm-hmm.
I just have to make sure they can find me when they're driving down the highway or going through the grocery store,
Right.
and make sure they don't confuse me with the pink and green one, or pink and orange one. Whatever color it is. Yeah, you're right, Maurice. It's like there's that freedom of, oh, I have to deliver what they want.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I don't necessarily have to have them fall in love with me and marry me.
But some of us
You
feel
know?
like we have to make that level of commitment, because like you said about loyalty, right? It's like we have to live and die by this particular perspective, without understanding like, hey, tomorrow I might not feel like it. Tomorrow I might not even be near one, so,
Yep.
so what is it that we need to do, even when we're looking at ourselves as entrepreneurs? How do we make sure that we're not so fanatical in that space when we're looking at marketing?
If you over focus and hyper focus as an entrepreneur on creating love and loyalty and only finding customers that love you and are purely loyal to you, you're going to miss out on a lot of the money. Because like I said, love is great, but that's not where the money's at. The money's in friends, brand friends, not brand lovers. So you're going to miss out on, if you run a salon, you're going to have some people that love you and will only come to you, and others who are like, yeah, I like this place. It's good.
Right.
And they might come and go, or you'll see a lot of people just come in once and maybe you'll never see them again. And so you accept that, and it frees you up. And then the second thing, and this is a critical step too, Maurice, is if you realize
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/PODKATZ13. Just go to Indeed.com/PODKATZ13 right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Lowe's knows July 4th savings are worth celebrating. Right now, get up to 40% off select major appliances and get an additional 10% off 2 or more select major appliances. Plus, get 3 Scott's Naturescapes 1.5 cubic foot mulch bags for just $10. These deals are coming in hot. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 7/9. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. See Lowe's.com for more details. Excludes Alaska and Hawaii.
most of your business, or a lot of your business, is going to be with people who buy a little of you and don't think about you much, then you're going to focus, I think, or you should focus a lot more on how to get them to think of you at all, as opposed to what's your deep brand story and your essence and your mythos and stuff like that. Like, you know who's great at that? Here's an example. Can you name an insurance brand?
Geico.
Boom. And what do you know about Geico?
The little iguana, whatever it is, always running with Geico, whatever it is, gecko, whatever it is, right? You know,
Yeah, that little lizard.
Lizard, yeah.
Or as to get even more accurate, because it's so close, it's a gecko.
Right.
Because it's Geico and it's a gecko.
Right, yeah.
And they don't want you to think too hard,
Mhm.
right? And I love this example because do you know, does Geico cover boats?
I don't know exactly. I don't
Do
know.
they cover RVs?
I would guess they would because of automobile-ish type stuff.
Yeah, I would assume so.
Yeah.
But like, what part of the country do you live in?
I'm in Philly, so I'm on the East Coast.
Oh, how did we not even touch this fact? I grew up downtown.
You did?
Yeah, go Birds.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But I mean, so even using that, right? You know,
Yeah.
you know about Philly, so guess what? We're really, really love our Eagles, right?
Yep.
But
Yep.
guess what? We have the New York Giants and the Jets that's not even 2 hours away. You got the Commanders who's, not 2 hours. Baltimore Ravens, right? How many teams are this right here within
maybe, yeah, or like you love your Eagles, but maybe you also like basketball, or maybe you also like soccer. Soccer's growing huge in America right now. And so like, or your alma mater, if you went to college and, you love the Nittany Lions from Penn State and you got some love for the Lions, but you also love the Eagles, but it's not like there's only one team usually that you're a fan of. But like, I love the fact that Geico they didn't pick something that was symbolic of insurance. Like insurance, I don't know, it should be like protection or safety, something that takes care of you when you have, let's see, in Philly, what are the big disasters? They'd be either some storms occasionally.
Yeah.
You don't get much flooding in Philly, but recently there was some flooding.
Yeah, it's just been, recently it's been some really, really heavy pours lately.
Yeah. So like flooding, that will mess up your life.
It would.
And you'd think you want an insurance brand that's strong and safe and secure. So they should pick a symbol that's like strong, like a bull, or like protective, like a big, female elephant, a mother elephant or something. But no, they didn't pick anything that was symbolic of safety and strength. They picked something that was one letter away from their brand name. Because they realized what matters more isn't the symbolism. It matters that it's sticky. It matters that it sticks to your brain. And a gecko that has an accent for who the hell knows why.
Right.
It's sticky. Right? But it's a Cockney accent. Like, why does the gecko need a Cockney accent? Because it's sticky. That's why. It's not relevant to insurance at all. So yeah, like if you're an entrepreneur and you're worried about, like, are you differentiated and does your brand essence match your brand story? Most people can't remember where their car keys are.
Right.
So that's why you pick a gecko if you're Geico. You know what I mean?
I totally understand what you mean.
Makes you think different about how you spend your time marketing.
And it makes me think about, I don't know if it's NJM. One of those other insurance companies say they don't even have a logo. They don't spend a whole lot of time on that, but those are things that we concentrate so much on when we're thinking about marketing. We pay so much attention to what the logo means, and like you said, what our mascot might be. And the reality is that we're going to be changing in 5 to 10 years anyway.
If it's weak, we're going to be changing.
Right.
If you're a Geico, they've been doing that for 20 years. They had that lizard for 20 years, the gecko. Who else has had something for a while?
I said that because if you think about like Coca-Cola and Pepsi, right?
Yep.
Those two brands, they haven't dropped it all the way, but they've tweaked it, right? Over time.
Yeah.
Subtle tweaks.
Subtle tweaks.
Right.
Subtle tweaks. Coke more subtle than Pepsi. Pepsi likes to play with their logo a bit more. Coke,
right.
You still have that like cursive script.
Yes.
On the side of a red truck that goes by, you don't even have to read it to know instantly. You see it out of the corner of your eye.
Right.
You know it's a Coca-Cola truck.
Right.
So a good brand will stick with that stuff. But they'll stick with it because it's familiar, not because of its brand essence or its brand meaning. It's funny because it ends up being superficial is kind of a harsh word, but let's just call it superficial. That a lot of what your brand does is just remind people you exist and what need or what job you'll solve for them. Like if you want to buy salt, there's a standard brand you usually go for, which is the one with the little girl with the umbrella.
Yep. Blue container.
Yeah. A little yellow, maybe yellow galoshes. I forget. And it's Morton Salt. And she's 100 years old, that little girl. And they've tweaked her over the years. But no one cares about the story.
Right.
They just like want to know if I'm at the store and I need to find some salt and I'm looking at the bakery section and my kid is screaming at me and I got to change its diaper. Like I just want to find that salt real quick and know that it's decent salt. and that the container won't like disintegrate when I use it or something like that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So yeah, there's an old phrase. I don't know. Supposedly, Franklin Roosevelt's wife said it. Eleanor Roosevelt. Supposedly, she said, "Darling, you'd worry a lot less what people think about you when you realize how little they think about you at all."
Mm.
And it's sad, but then it's freeing.
Right.
Like when you realize people aren't thinking about whether your brand color is perfect or what your brand story is, then you have the freedom to just get in their faces with a little gecko that speaks Cockney, come up with a fun, thing, a fun little mascot or a fun campaign to get some attention. And a lot of your customers will come and go, and that's cool.
Wow.
It's a different attitude towards marketing that kind of steps around or steps over the whole brand love mythology.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dang. I mean, and I'm saying wow because the way you're explaining it, it just sounds so simple because I've been in meetings where people have spent, 30, 50 hours, man hours on just trying to decide a color.
I've been in those meetings. Oh, they're brutal. They are brutal. Yeah. And like they obsess over the meaning of, are we fun or are we lighthearted? Right? Well, are you fun or lighthearted? Come on. Who gives a damn? You make tacos.
That's funny. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. You can really overthink this stuff. And granted, some of the stuff is really hard and you do have to overthink it. Like, who are we really going after? Are we really delivering a product or service that they want?
Right.
Are we doing it in a way that shows our value? Those are hard questions. And so you do have to overthink them. But then when it comes to like being sticky and sticking in their mind, I like to say, then you got to underthink it. And you got to say, well, our brand is Geico. Let's do a gecko.
But see, I think sometimes in that space, we use our adult mind versus our childlike curiosity, playful mind. Because with that Geico, right? You could play around with that. You can put them in different spaces or whatever it might be, where you're not pigeonholed to one message all the time.
Yeah. Oh, man. I have not thought about it as a metaphor like adult mind, child mind. I kind of like that a lot. Like I talk about the unconscious mind, the instinctual mind, the automatic mind versus the conscious deliberate mind.
Right.
Like the unconscious mind is the one that is kind of trying to decide which beverage to get for lunch at the deli or the corner store. That one looks pretty good. I'm going to try that one. Yeah, pomegranate. Okay, sure. And you just kind of go for it. And then the deliberate mind is the one when you're trying to choose, like my favorite metaphor is toilet paper math. You ever try and figure out how many rolls, jumbo rolls are in regular rolls, how many 2-ply versus 1-ply,
right?
How many sheets per roll? Like
Lowe's knows July 4th savings are worth celebrating. Right now, get up to 40% off select major appliances and get an additional 10% off 2 or more select major appliances. Plus, get 3 Scott's Naturescapes 1.5 cubic foot mulch bags for just $10. These deals are coming in hot. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 7/9. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. See Lowe's.com for more details. Excludes Alaska and Hawaii.
I don't want to do that math. You don't want to do that math.
No.
But like that's the deliberate mind. And I love this notion of saying, well, the deliberate one is more like the adult mind, the serious mind, the supposedly logical one. And then the child mind is more playful and more embracing and just more intuitive.
Right.
And yeah, Gecko is very child mind as opposed to adult mind.
Yeah, because you could play around with it. I can put that gecko in a lot of different positions to say, hey, you know what? Hey, I stepped on a Lego. Is that insurance? Like, do I need...
Right. Oh my God. There better be stepping on Lego insurance.
You get what I mean?
It's like hell.
But you see how something like that, almost anybody can relate to that. Even a teenager, a kid, or something like that.
Oh yeah, all
That's
different
relatable,
ages.
right?
Yeah, and then the brands, it's it's funny because the brands that allow for that creativity, that kind of flexibility,
Mm-hmm.
they tend to be a little stickier,
Mm-hmm.
because they do things which are a little interesting or a little quote off or a little fun.
Right.
And then sticky's great because that's the job. Is if someone only comes to your hair salon every 3 months, or if someone only does their tax prep once a year,
Mm-hmm.
or if someone only swings by your coffee shop, I don't know, once a month,
Mm-hmm.
then you got to stick in their mind somehow, and that
Right.
playful mind helps you come up with ideas to be stickier.
Right. Right. So
Yeah.
man, again, Ethan, man, I mean, I appreciate you coming on. I mean, you said a whole lot today, and with this real, genuine, authentic conversation, because that's all it was. It was just a conversation,
Yeah.
And I hope that each and every one of y'all that are listening caught this, right? Because we don't have to make things harder than what they need to be, as long as we stay ourselves.
Yeah. There's a lot of science. There's a lot of research. I spent 20 years trying to make it simple,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it starts complicated and it starts confusing, and every book tells you something different.
Yeah, it does.
And that's because you're dealing with someone's individual story of like how they succeeded.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean that's the truth for how you're going to succeed.
Right.
So a little bit of what I do is I try and separate the universal things, the things which are like the laws of physics,
Mm-hmm.
or, the physics of brand, from the things that might work for you, but not for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So for those individuals who are struggling with that, where can they find you to say, hey, you know what, Ethan, I'm having a problem, and I'm trying to stay playful, but I'm also trying to understand the logical side of this, and not get caught up in this color means this and this shape means that, so where can they talk to you about that type of stuff?
I'm pretty easy to find if you look for Applied Brand Science.com, or just search for Applied Brand Science on the internet. Some reason all my stuff comes up. I'm very orange. You'll see a lot of orange because I believe if Coca-Cola has something right when it comes to being red and white for 110 years, 120 years, I'm going to stick to orange and white. Those are my colors.
Nice.
So appliedbrandscience.com. I'm also on LinkedIn. You can find me there, which is like, Facebook for business. So Ethan Decker, or E.H. Decker, I'm there. Yeah. And then from there, I'm pretty easy to reach out to. You can find me readily from those places.
Nice. So of course, Ethan, I'm going to have all your information in the show notes. So whether someone is walking around, riding around, they should be able to come back to this and click on your information. But Ethan, before we go, I got to ask you my would you rather question, man.
Bring it.
So, would you rather choose 3 doors or a fork in the road? Now, because we've been in this playful space, no holds barred, there are no parameters, no right or wrong answer. Just which one would you choose? 3 doors or a fork in the road?
I'd choose a fork in the road.
And why a fork?
There's something about the notion of just, A or B, and you pick one, and then you go, and then hopefully, if you're further down the road, you're thinking about the next choice. You're not thinking about the last one.
Sometimes we live in the past, though. We keep looking backwards, though.
Oh Lordy, don't we ever?
We do sometimes, but see, again, with this whole idea, no one says that the fork doesn't turn you back around to try to correct it, right?
True.
So
true. Well, I'm still living in the past where the Eagles won the Super Bowl this year.
Listen, they're the last Super Bowl, so yeah. And they might repeat again, y'all. So if y'all listening, I said it here first.
They're gonna repeat? You think they're gonna repeat, Maurice?
I'm not sure, but I think they have a good chance.
I think they have a really good chance.
Yeah, I think they have a good chance. I'm not sure about Kansas City, but
oh man, yeah, they got a little rebuilding to do.
Yeah, they do.
Like their front line.
But the NFL, a lot of teams got better.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, we'll see. So, but I thank you, Ethan, for coming on, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. You better get a cheesesteak for me while you're.
Oh, I will, most
while you're in
definitely.
Philly.
That sounds good right about now.
Good.
Thank y'all very much for listening to That Will Never Work podcast, and I'll talk to you just a little bit later.
Thanks for listening. Follow Maurice Chism on social media to stay connected and check back weekly for new episodes. Until next time, that will never work. Or will it?
Every business has an ambition. PayPal Open is the platform designed to help you grow into yours. With business loans so you can expand and access to hundreds of millions of PayPal customers worldwide. And your customers can pay all the ways they want with PayPal, Venmo, Pay Later, and all major cards, so you can focus on scaling up. When it's time to get growing, there's one platform for all business. PayPal Open. Grow today at paypalopen.com. Loans subject to approval in available locations.
Lowe's knows July 4th savings are worth celebrating. Right now, get up to 40% off select major appliances and get an additional 10% off 2 or more select major appliances. Plus, get 3 Scott's Naturescapes 1.5 cubic foot mulch bags for just $10. These deals are coming in hot. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 7/9. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. See Lowe's.com for more details. Excludes Alaska and Hawaii.